Okay, we're going to recall the meeting to order.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Here.
Mr. Porter? Here. Dr. Ritchie? Here. Mr. Sherwood?
Here.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to add the addendum 22A to the agenda.
So moved. Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 5, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the agenda for the August... Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vision statement, Mr. Porter.
Vision and mission statement of the Austintown Schools. The Austintown Local School District is a united community with a proud legacy and a progressive approach to education. We provide an inspiring education that strengthens and prepares our students for unlimited future opportunities.
Thank you. Item 5, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the agenda for the August 22nd, 2019 Board of Education regular August session.
So moved. Second?
Take the vote.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. For the public comment segment 1, which is the yellow page, nobody signed up on the yellow page. Item 7, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the following items A through J by consent action.
So moved.
Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 8, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the agreement entered into by Forecast 5 Analytics Incorporated in the Austintown Local Schools for financial planning and organizational services effective June 30, 2019 to June 30, 2020. So moved.
Second?
Take the vote.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie?
Item 9, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the agreement between the Mahoning County Education Service Center and the Austintown Local School District, whereas the contractor, which is the school district, agrees to provide to the MCESC transportation for transition to work services in accordance with specification of the agreement. This agreement will be effective August 15th, 2019 to May 31st, 2020.
Second?
Take the vote.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 10, upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the resolution providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $11,845,000 for the purpose of refunding for debt charges, saving certain of the school district's outstanding school improvement refunding bonds, Series 2012, dated June 30th, 2012.
So moved.
Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie? Mr. Sherwood?
Abstain. Item 12, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, item 11, I'm sorry. Upon the recommendation of the treasurer, approve the revised administrative salary schedule as presented. So moved. Second. Take the vote.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes. Item 12, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the following personnel items, A and B, by consent action. Second. Take the vote.
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes. Item 13, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the action to rescind the displacement notices from the April 10th, 2019 agenda for the following employees: Patricia Thompson and Robin Cole Ambruster at FHS.
So moved. Second.
Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 14, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve 10 additional days of work during the summer of 2019 for Fitch High School counselors to complete work required to be done prior to school starting.
So moved.
Second. Take the vote.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie?
Item 15, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the employment pending receipt of favorable required paperwork of the following teaching personnel on a one-year limited contract effective with the start of the 2019-20 school year on August 26, 2019 as follows: salary in accordance with the board-approved AEA negotiated agreement.
Second.
Take the vote.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 16, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the appointment of Angie Mraz as transportation supervisor, 0 years experience on the administrative salary schedule, 2-year contract effective August 26, 2019 to June 30, 2021.
So moved.
Second. Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie?
Yes. Yes. You want to recognize those people? Okay. Some of those new employees are here, so we'll, Ms. Polish, Mr. Capizzello.
We just wanted to welcome our new teachers. If you're here, please come up. Caitlin Slater. Carrie Copeland. Janet Vlaku. We're going to get a picture of you guys, so you can stay up here. Alexis Igler. And Rupa Keenan. And Nina Del Garbino. It's a mouthful. All right. Congratulations. Welcome to our Falcon family. We'll get a picture of you guys.
Angie, can you please come up and stand so everybody can see our new transportation director? Do they know who to complain to? No, just kidding.
Item 17. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the Austintown Local School District Section 504 Policies and Guidelines Manual for identifying and service eligible students.
So moved.
Second. Take the vote.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie?
Item 18, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the affiliation agreement for clinical education of nursing program students, non-paying internship between Youngstown State University and Austintown Local Schools. The terms of this agreement shall be for 1 year with automatic renewal for 5 years, one term effective, 5 one-year terms, effective May 15th, 2019 to May 15th, 2024.
Second.
Take the vote.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 19, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the affiliation agreement for clinical education of kinesiology and sports science students, non-paying internship between Youngstown State University and Austintown Local Schools. The terms of this agreement shall be for 2 years effective July 30th, 2019 to July 30, 2021, and may be renewed every 2 years by execution by both parties of a renewal letter.
So moved.
Second. Take the vote.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie?
Item 20, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the non-paying internship of Thomas McGraw, Youngstown State University student, under the supervision of Daniel Wedding, certified strength conditioning specialist for the district, and Jim Pank, athletic director, effective August 5th, 2019.
Second?
Take the vote.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 21, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the agreement for behavioral intervention services between Solutions Behavioral Consulting, LLC, and the Austintown Local Schools, effective June 6, 2019, for developing and implementing scholastic behavioral intervention programs for children with autism or other special needs.
So moved?
Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie? Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. Item 22, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, approve the name change from Austintown Community Television, ACTV, to Falcon Media.
So moved.
Second?
Take the vote.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie? Mr. Sherwood?
Yes. The addendum 22A. Approve the settlement agreement, release and waiver made and entered into by and between Hillbrook Apartment Associates, LLC, and the Austintown Local School District Board of Education regarding tree removal effective August 14th, 2019.
So moved?
Second. Take the vote.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mr. Porter? Dr. Ritchie?
Item 23, the September board meeting will be, a regular session will be September the 19th, Thursday, at 6 p.m. here in Austintown Middle School's cafetorium. Moving on to item 24. Oh,
So moved.
Second?
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski? Mr. Porter? Mr. Sherwood?
yes. For item 24, public comment on agenda topic of speaker's choice. We've got quite a few names on here, so I'm going to go over just a couple of very general ground rules of being courteous and working to keep comments to 3 minutes per speaker, and the time cannot be donated to other speakers. And no further comments will be taken once the speaking portion is closed. So that being said, first person speaking, Molly Hartsoe.
My name is Molly Hartsoe, 230 Westminster Avenue. As a parent of a Fitch High School student, as a graduate student, and as an educator, I am disgusted by your decision to remove a dedicated Media Center staff member from the Fitch Media Center. As a doctoral candidate and as a college-level instructor, I can assure you that today's college students are held to high standards. In many of their courses, they are required and expected to produce well-written research papers that demonstrate critical thinking. Every semester, I find myself taking time out of teaching sociology to instruct students on how to read scholarly literature and critically analyze information, how to find rigorous and reputable scholarly sources, how to logically structure a research paper, and how to properly cite information. In short, I am teaching reading, writing, research, and critical thinking skills every semester. These are all skills scholarly research has shown that Media Center specialists can help students develop. Research has also shown that the removal of these Media Center staff members in a single building results in lower reading and writing scores for all students in a school district. I am personally fortunate in that I have always attended a grade school with at least one dedicated full-time Media Center specialist. I graduated from LeBray High School, a school district with far less funding than Austintown. However, because LeBray maintained a well-staffed school library, I was able to take advantage of the aforementioned benefits offered by a Media Center specialist. I would not be pursuing a doctorate now had I not had the support of Media Center specialists then. This support allowed me to develop the skills I now have to teach to recent high school graduates. In other words, by removing a dedicated Media Center staff member from Fitch High School, you are setting up all of Austintown's future graduates to fail at the college level. Furthermore, properly staffed Media Centers operate as a safe space for students. They're quiet, unstructured, yet supervised spaces for students to catch their breath in a school day packed back-to-back with demanding classes, or a way to escape a stressful and often alienating social environment. Media Centers are spaces in which students in academic or emotional distress can find a caring and supportive adult to assist them, without fear of their grades being negatively impacted or the social stigma associated with walking into a school counselor's office. The students of Fitch know and trust Trish Hartsoe. They know that if they come to her with a concern, big or small, she will treat them with respect and compassion and will work with them to solve their issue. By removing dedicated Media Center staff such as Mrs. Hartsoe, you are destroying an easily accessible safe space for students in all types of distress. This is only a brief summary as to why I believe you should reconsider your decision about the restructuring of the Fitch Media Center. I present to you today a petition asking for the immediate reinstatement of Mrs. Hartsoe as the Fitch Media Specialist, thus restoring the operation of the Media Center to that of the 2018-2019 school year. The paltry sum of $15,000 at which you have been paying Mrs. Hartsoe for the past 4 years is an absolute steal, considering all of the benefits she brings to Austintown students. In an attempt to save money today by cutting Mrs. Hartsoe's position, you're asking the Austintown students to pay with their futures. This online petition has been signed by over 600 individuals in less than 1 week, while the paper petition has over 80 signatures. These are signatures that represent Austintown students and residents. I'm also presenting you with written statements from recent Fitch graduate Katrina Neff and YSU Professor Emeritus and English Festival Co-Director Dr. Gary Salvner. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I urge you to do the right thing and heed the wishes of your constituents. Immediately restore the operation of the Fitch Media Center to that of the 2018-2019 school year. Thank you.
I'll take that. The next speaker, Alex. I don't want to mess up the last name. Buttrick.
Alex Buttrick, 230 Westminster Avenue. Good afternoon. I want to first go through a few numbers, make a statement, and then ask a question. The first number I want to submit is $160,727.71. That is the total amount of payment that the Board of Education has made or is going to make to the former superintendent, according to the Board of Education's response in the town crier to the Watchdog report. I think most people here can agree that we are happy with having a new superintendent, but that is not what I am here to discuss. The second number I want to submit is $25,000. That is the total amount of payment that the Board of Education has made or is going to make to the former athletic director. But again, that is not what I'm here to discuss. The third number I want to submit is $6,000. That is the total amount that it costs the Board of Education to repay the track this year. That is beyond the huge expenditure of millions of dollars that was authorized by at least some of this current board for the athletic complex. The last number I want to submit is $15,000. That is the amount of money that the Board of Education is not willing to spend to bring back the media center specialist at Fitch this upcoming school year. This refusal to expend what is effectively a mathematical correction in order to save the media center is unacceptable. Over the past 4 years, while Mrs. Hartow has been the media center specialist, here are some numbers that you might be interested in. First, 1,612 books have been added to the media center collection at no cost to the school. In fact, 900 of those books were personally donated by Mrs. Hartow herself. Second, 2,568 books have been rented to students over the course of the last 4 years at Austintown Fitch. Contrast that with 234 of the books that were rented to students over the past 4 years by Austintown Middle School. What's the difference? The difference is that AMS has a system where a less than part-time staff has helped check out books and where teachers who go into the library can check out books to students, whereas Fitch had Mrs. Hartow actively working to help students check out books. The board would be foolish to eliminate that resource to my fellow students and me. Unfortunately, as I know my time is short, I'm not even able to get into all of the emotional factors of why the board should reverse its decision for how the media center is to be utilized this upcoming year and why Mrs. Hartow should be brought back. So in conclusion, the students, parents, and teachers of Austintown deserve better from this board, and I strongly urge you to reconsider your position.
Thank you, Alex. The third name, Daniel Varley.
Daniel Varley, 116 North Main Street. I'm here today to further drive the point that we need our media center specialist, Mrs. Hartow, back. Personally, she has affected my life for my well-being countless times. She is an emotional and just mentally supportive person in that school that it's a real shame that we have to lose that just because of financial issues. I understand that, yeah, we are going through financial issues. However, something that only $15,000 a year, it's not that bad. For students like me who rely on her every day that I'm in that school, it's asinine that she's going to be gone and that I have to just try to not center my ideals around, I have to avoid trying to be emotional in school and such like that. Whereas every day that I'd go into Ms. Hartow, she would always help me. She would help countless students. During lunch, many of us would go in and eat with her, and she would just be a general positive influence on all of us. And it's really just a heartbreaking defeat to the students that we have to lose her and that we have to do something like this just to reinstate her, because come on. It's just not good that we have to do this and that you guys don't see the general statement and impact that she has made on many of us students. So as people previous speaking to me, I do urge you to please reconsider. Many of us students are completely outraged and just disappointed in this decision, and we feel that we would benefit much greater if she was reinstated and still working at Austintown Schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. The next name is Gary Skirty.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Gary Skirty, resident of Austintown since 1979. Right now, I'm an active member of the Fitness Community Center. And I'm here, and we do have a number of other members here. About 3 weeks ago, when I came down to the fitness center, posted on the door was a little note that says, as of 9/1, the Austintown Fitness Center will be permanently closed to the community. There was something very, very general like that in Facebook also. But we have no answer to our question. Can we come up with something now before I move on with what we have to say?
What's your question, Gary?
My question is, the fitness center will be permanently closed to the community. No one knows anything. This is why we are here.
Okay.
Do we have to wait for another meeting to discuss this?
No, go with your comments, and I'll comment on behalf of the board after your comments.
Okay. Let me consider right now that our fitness members will not be allowed to go back, as it says in that note. Back in 2004, there was an article in the Vindicator about the fitness center and how Walter Terlecki donated the Westchester building and he gave the money to the township to use the rental money to help pay off the fitness center. And after 5 years, it pretty much did. We're looking at $450,000 that we raised that went towards the fitness center from the trustees, a donation from the trustees, and from Mr. Terlecki. The foundation of the building, as it was back then, as it is now, it was donated by the community. It was a community. We have to keep the community in. We have to know about the community. If this is to happen, if they're going to take the fitness center away from the community and just keep it for the students, it is something to think about. Will the alumni not be able to use it? The Austintown Fitch. The Hall of Famers, will they not be allowed to use it? The retired teachers, the taxpayers that support the general fund, will they not be able to use it? You're almost like biting the hand that feeds you. What is the accomplishment of this? Why is this happening? I could understand that, sure, the student body, there are a lot more people, a lot more students than community members that come there. But we have to understand that it was the community that built this up. There's a statement over here, a 19-year-old former district baseball player last year, he still trains at the Austintown Center. But if it goes this way, if they take it away from the community, he won't be able to go back and train. I went on the website. There's a number of fitness centers that are almost carbon copy to ours. It's tied in with the high schools, okay? And they work together. I have printouts from the internet. I have dozens and dozens that pretty much has the same membership that we have, the same hours. And what they do for anybody that signs up, they have an orientation meeting, which would be a great idea. So, I have more information here, but I really can't move on until we specifically say what is going to happen.
Okay, well, first of all, you're in the public comment session to make your public comment. What's going to happen, this board has made a decision. This board's made a decision based upon feedback from a lot of factors. A couple things that have happened recently. We have a lot more young Austintown student athletes using the fitness center. I'm sure all of you guys would agree with that, right? We have a grant-funded strength conditioning coach, not paid out of the general fund, a grant-funded coach that now we have weeks of 250 student athletes in a fitness center, some as young as 13 years old. It's a safety issue for our students, first and foremost, which is difficult for the 109 members that we currently have. I understand that. We all understand that. This is not an easy, light decision, but you have 109 members and several hundred kids a day, on some days, going through the building now. Members are not background checked. All it takes is one bad thing, a young 13-year-old person walking home, that could be an issue. So we've made a decision for the betterment and safety of our students. We are a campus for students, first and foremost. And law enforcement was taken under advisement here as well. Wasn't taken lightly. I know you guys have used it for many, many years. But at the end of the day, with the feedback we've gathered, our mandate is to protect student athletes, or students. I don't mean student athletes, but in that complex, that's who's using it right now. And that's the decision we made.
We have a lot more to talk about that. For 20-some years, I don't see any lawsuits thrown about. I don't see any fights. Everything has gone well. Our membership has went down, which I work out during the AM hours. There's hardly anybody there. Yes, you are right. They did turn around they have an instructional, a strength instructor. So they're bringing in all the teams, whether the girls volleyball team or the football team. Yes, they are working out a lot. But we're taking it upon us, as a member, we get out of the way. They're down on the floor. We're up top. We try to do as much as possible to be there, to do our thing. And we're not interrupting anybody. I don't think so. That instructor that's here on a grant, yes, he is doing a good job. Will that grant be available next year? Okay? We are going into a different program. I also heard that there's more equipment coming in. That is costing money. Isn't that coming from the general fund? It's coming from taxes. The taxes come from the community people. Like I said, the other fitness centers out about, hundreds and hundreds in the United States, why can't we do that? Why can't we carbon copy that? If we're worried about that, let's have an orientation for every membership. Let's have an orientation about that.
Gary,
can we think about that? Can we talk about that?
When this meeting's over, I'll sit over there as long as you want to talk today about this. Okay?
Sure.
Next person on the list, Gail Blevins.
Gail Blevins, 195 Edgewater Drive. Many of you know me. Some of you do not. To introduce myself, I am an Austintown retired 8th grade language arts teacher. I'm a mother of 2 amazing, well-educated Fitch graduates. And I'm the grandmother of an incoming kindergarten student. I'm here on behalf of Trish Hartsoe. She has worked 4 years at the Media Center. During her time, over 1,600 books have been added to the collection at the Media Center at no cost to the school system. She personally donated 900 books. The balance comes from alumni, teachers, her family, Austintown alumni grants, and book fair earnings. During the 2018-2019 school year, 2,568 books were checked out at the Fitch Media Center. While at the center, she also tutors students when needed. Guide them with the usage of the computers and projects. Keep students with her when they have nowhere else to go. Example, special ed students who have completed their extended time. Many times, students have come to her with problems and concerns, and she listens. At what cost to the district with the loss of Trish Hartsoe? Students will not have someone who will help them locate an appropriate book for them. This is inconvenient and frustrating for many students. This is mostly significant to the lower readers and students from low-income families that may not have access to a variety of books. Without an appropriate recommendation, they may never connect with books and growing their reading abilities. The gap between those who have and those who have not has widened. We all have bad days and need somewhere to go and talk about what is happening in life. In the Media Center, many students have found a safe haven where they can talk. An adult is there to listen. They can cool off for a few minutes and then return to class, ready to learn. Students who have been bullied needed a place where they can feel safe. They go to the Media Center. Once students sit down at the computer, they often need guidance with the assignment or the computer itself. Mrs. Hartsoe is available to help so they don't have to keep returning to their teacher, wasting time and interrupting class. Lunchtime can be a challenge for kids without a social group. They go to the Media Center and become included. Many friendships have been forged there, often among students who would never have gotten to know one another. Many students are reluctant to admit they need help with projects that seem overwhelming. They come to the Media Center for guidance and sometimes even supplies. Diversification in the classroom sometimes takes extra help and room. Mrs. Hartsoe has provided both. She has worked with English teachers to recommend appropriate books for individual students and projects. She has also book-taught books, including students to introducing students to current and interesting books. She has accomplished all these activities while working part-time in the Media Center. Mrs. Hartsoe has a deep passion for books, reading, and the well-being of our students at Fitch High School. I strongly urge the Board of Education to reinstate her position at the Media Center, and thank you for your time.
Next name, Patricia Hartsoe.
Hi, Patricia Hartsoe, 4210 Nottingham. I think we're doing something right, guys. Here in Austintown, we have students, one of the last days of summer, and they're here at a Board of Education meeting. They are here not to fight for hoodies or cell phone usage or more cream turkey days. They are here because they want to keep their media center and their media center specialist. It is a part-time job. I have a full-time passion for these kids. And I think those of you who know me know that. My biggest concern is we all know that we need to save cost. Money is a governing thing. We get that. But my biggest concern is that what is a small cost to a school system is going to be a huge, huge cost to our students. Every time that a student comes in and there are no current books, that's a cost that our students have to pay. Every time that a student comes in who doesn't like to read, and I am one of these people who believe that that's only because they haven't found the right book yet, I try to find them that right book and match it with their interest level and their reading level, and hopefully they will then be able to grow. They'll be able to find a book, oh my gosh, I do like this, I do like to read. And hopefully that will then help them to elevate their reading levels and their test scores. Every time a student comes in who does like to read, but they can't always afford the newest Schusterman novel that comes out, I'm there with the newest Schusterman novel that comes out. We have a lot of conversations about the English Festival books, and that really does help the kids to develop their love of reading. And we all know that that's an important thing. I don't think that's something that needs to be debated. Every time that a kid feels victimized, bullied, picked on, just having a bad day, they're paying the cost if there is not a person there to take care of them, to listen to them, because that's mostly what they need. I have so many colleagues who love these kids, and I have so many colleagues who care about them. But, you know, when you have 25 kids, you don't always have time to listen to that one who really just needs to talk. I have a flexible schedule. I am very, very busy. I'm constantly doing something. But my principal has always given me that flexibility to be able to deal with the kids as they need. I've tried to be a favorable adult influence in their lives. As has been mentioned, lunchtime. Lunchtime is so challenging to some of these kids. The kids who feel marginalized, the kids who just maybe are intimidated by the cafeteria, they come to the media center. And I have a big group of kids who just never felt like they fit in, and suddenly they have all these new friends because they're there. I don't want to lose that. There's so many things that are happening that are right. I just don't want to lose it for those kids. It's also the teachers, because I am here to serve the teachers as well. There are many, many times that one or two students, maybe through absenteeism or whether it's an IEP, they have something different to do than what's going on in the classroom. Well, it would not be exactly safe anymore to put that kid in the hall to work on something. So they get sent to the media center, where I can help them if they need it, or just make sure they're on task if they don't need my help. There's a lot of times during testing season that things like special education with extended time, I had several times when one or two of the extended time kids were with their teacher, and then there were another 15 kids who had nowhere to go. They ended up in the media center. And obviously that's not a possibility if it's not staffed. So there's a lot of reasons that I really am asking you to reconsider this position. These kids are great. They are asking for me to be retained. Those of you who know me know I would never be up here doing this. But the kids pretty much told me what they were going to do. And then they asked me for numbers, and here we are. So I just ask that you honor what they want and what I know is best for our school system. I know you guys have their best interest at heart. I'm well aware of that. The principals that I have worked for and the principal that I'm looking forward to working under now, I know all of these men. And they are good men, and they are interested in the very best for our kids. And I just ask that you would consider reinstating my position. Thank you.
The next name on the public comment, Andrew Lubanovic.
I've been a member of the community center for 20 years. I can't believe this. Plus, I'm paid up till February of next year. How are you going to handle that?
Everybody will be reimbursed.
I really like to use the gym because it's been good to me and my family. Thank you.
A few more names on the back. I don't want to mess the name up. Mark Wesolowski.
How you doing? I'm here representing the fitness center. Just do not understand what in the world is going on, since this is a community. If you want something for the athletes, why don't you build a gym for them? This was a community for all of us. Now all of a sudden it's taken away from us because of sports? Well, build something. You do have a gymnasium, don't you? And put the weight room in there. I'm a Cheney High School alumni. Where's their fitness center? They don't have one. They have a weight room for the school athletes. Well, use the gym. Put something on. But don't deprive us of what we do there. I mean, we're a bunch of older people right now, senior citizens. I mean, we don't even have to, we can go any place that we want for free. But we chose to come here and pay a whole $50 a year, where we could go for free any other place. And yeah, just recently, this place looks spick and span. Well, what happened last year? What happened 6 months ago? We had to beg to get paper towels in there. We cleaned up and cleaned up the trash ourselves. We've even taped up some of the padding in there. We did. Nobody else. I mean, we don't know who to talk to. There is nobody to talk to because nobody wants to take charge of it. And all we're asking is, why are you doing this to us? And it's a lot of senior citizens like myself. And a lot of us, I'm just a puppy compared to like the lady over here. She's almost 90 years old. And I mean, we're there for one reason. Just to put one foot in front of the other to rehab. And then we gotta go, yes, we do excuse ourselves when the gym classes come in. But I mean, we've been asking for safety issues also. There's not even a telephone in there. If somebody gets hurt, there's no panic button. Somebody could have a heart attack. I mean, on the treadmills, there's no safety devices on the treadmills. They're supposed to be there. Well, maybe they're on there now. I can't climb the steps right now. But I mean, that's been an issue for 5 years. So all we want to know is just keep the place going for us, the community, and us older people. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Chris Smallwood. Is Chris Smallwood here? Okay. Kathy on Ayrshire.
Been a resident of Austintown since for the last 60 years, and I started to attend the fitness center shortly after it opened. I have been an employee of the Austintown schools for 25 years, and I'm retired. And I'm just very disappointed that they're going to close the fitness center, a place that I love to go to, along with many other. I wish you would take in consideration about keeping it open for their seniors. Thank you.
Mr. Kelty, would you briefly come to the podium to touch on the Media Center, how it will not be closing, and the general discussion points briefly, please?
Board, you would like for me to just present some of what's going to happen next year? Okay. It's been difficult to do, and we've moved forward with staffing the media center by our teaching staff at Fitch High School. Most of our English teachers in the building will staff the media center 5 days a week, where before it was not staffed 5 days a week. It will be staffed every period of the day also. Sorry. We are going to have our study halls in the media center, that we are designing it, and the reason why we put the English language arts teachers there to make it a student research time when they have their study halls there, which will be, again, staffed by our teaching staff. That is going to be their assigned duty. Okay, some teachers have a planning period or a conference period. Well, we are now assigned them a duty in the media center. I would like to add that not one book or material has been removed from the media center, nor has the location of the media center going to be moved. Okay? It's not closing. It's not. Adjacent to the media center is a special room that was designed for meetings, and we are planning to make that room for the kids to have lunch in there that need a safe place or just need a place to go to eat. Maybe it's just too loud or they have some sensory issues with our cafeteria. We're going to open that room up for those students. Anything else? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any comments? Dave, any comments? Any board comments?
No.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mrs. Mock?
Yes.
Mrs. Krimpaski?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Dr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
in association with Austintown Local Schools and Austintown Township.